Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, theFellowKGB. You can follow me on Twitter at theFellowKGB. And it's Friday, August 28th. It's about 6 p.m. We're going to be just covering some training camp news and updates quickly here. Just going to be about a 15-minute video, I think. And we got a lot of news and notes to get through. So I'm going to go ahead here and hop into a screen share. Let me get this going. So we're going to be using, I like to just quickly look at Roto World, and you can just click on player news, and you'll go from there and kind of just keep going on, and we'll run down until we see some news that we saw yesterday, I guess. So this is just today's notes, Fridays. Young tight end here, Harrison Bryant. We got a note here on Jalen Reagor, and the Philadelphia Inquirer reports it'll be a shock if Jalen Reagor does not have a significant role in the Eagles offense. So he's a guy that I've been kind of keeping an eye on. You can get him, in the 8th, 9th, 10th round probably. And, think about the Eagles offense. We really don't know who's going to be their leading receiver. Is Alshon Jeffrey even healthy to start the year? He's probably on the PUP list with his foot. And Deshaun Jackson always seems to get hurt at some point. So really interesting rookie to keep an eye on here. I guess one of my comps for him is he kind of reminded me of Tyreek Hill. He's not probably as fast as Tyreek, but he does a lot of the similar things that Tyreek excels at. So, if you're in a dynasty league, I'm sure you've already drafted Jalen Reagor, but for redraft purposes, I think I'm going to start advising you target one, maybe two rookie receivers deep in the draft, because I think there's a lot of exciting guys here that I'm starting to like as training camp and buzz notes kind of come around. So another receiver here for the Houston Texans, Isaiah Coulter. He's standing out in speed. He's going to be, probably the 5th or 6th receiver on the team. So he's just a note to file away here. They're also their second-year tight end, Kahale Warring, has improved and is a good route runner, but he's kind of buried on the depth chart behind Jordan Akins, Jordan Thomas, and Darren Fells. It looks like Darrell Henderson has been cleared for light agility drill. So it's still up in the air if he's going to be ready for week 1. But at the moment right now, Cam Akers and Malcolm Brown are getting the top reps. So these two guys are kind of moved up my board right now. I'm not drafting Darrell Henderson at all, so I don't think you should either. Darius Fountain looking ready to go. We got notes of Chris Conley making some splash plays. I had a podcast yesterday with Sigmund Bloom. If you haven't checked that out, I'm sure you can find it on my YouTube channel, or maybe I'll link it below. But we talked up Laviska Shenault a lot yesterday, who was making some plays. But Chris Conley here making some plays. He's a big outside receiver. He stretches the field. And basically, I'm really starting to think that Gardner Minshew, if you play in Superflex leagues, Gardner Minshew is a target as your quarterback 2 or 3. So I think the Jaguars, everyone kind of knows that their defense isn't going to be very good this year. They're going to be forced to throw the ball more than they want. So I'm kind of coming on to this Jaguars passing offense as something that might be worth investing in. So we got some news here on Sony Michel. He started practicing this week, which is great. He avoided the PUP list, I believe, for the start of the season by being back already. But it looks like he is exchanging first-team reps with Damian Harris. So, at the moment right now, I'm a fan of Sony Michel, but I really don't know if he's going to have much fantasy value at all this year that we can rely on. Damian Harris is a really good second-year back out of Alabama that they took in the 3rd round. And even though I like Damian Harris, I don't think I can invest in a Patriots running back besides James White. We know James White's the pass-catching back, but think about Cam Newton being on the team. That might lead to some goal line rushing touchdowns being taken away from the running backs. And I don't feel great about the Patriot running backs, but it's interesting and cool to see Damian Harris starting to get taken a little bit more seriously now as a potential lead back. So that's good for Damian. Tight end rookie Devin Asiasi has been limited with an ankle injury. He had a really good start to camp, but now he's sidelined for a little bit here. It looks like Dante Moncrief is working out with the Jets. Don't need to worry about that. Deebo Samuel. Got some good news here. He was spotted sprinting hard on the sideline. So this reporter calls it the most intense workout this far with change of direction. So it looks like Deebo Samuel is on track. Maybe he's ready week 1. But the bottom line here is he's trending towards being active week 1. So if you've been buying Deebo Samuel at the discount, it's probably time to start elevating his ADP a little bit and making sure that your thoughts and your projections are thinking he's going to be around for 16 games. So I like Deebo Samuel in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. He's going to be kind of going in the rookie receiver range. This is kind of a big note you have to keep an eye on with the 49ers. George Kittle's dealing with hamstring tightness, which I do not like. I don't want any soft tissue injuries from my players that I draft, especially as high as we're drafting George Kittle in the second round. So they do have the backup Jordan Reed. It looks like Ross Dwelly's out as well, and then they added Eric Swope. So just keep an eye on this one. I hope George Kittle's just fine. But it says there's no concern over his week 1 status. So hopefully this hamstring thing is just a little precaution. Frank Gore, whatever, the Jets, man, they just traded for Kalen Ballage yesterday, and now Frank Gore is the most productive back. I'm just not drafting Jets running backs. I think the only New York Jet that I would consider drafting is Chris Herndon, just because he's like a 12th round tight end, and it sounds really good out of camp so far. Chris Thompson, Jacksonville Jaguars. We touched on the Jaguars a little bit ago, and how I'm super excited. You know, they got offensive coordinator Jay Gruden is from Washington, and you think about a guy like Chris Thompson, who had a really good career as a PPR back with Gruden in Washington. So it looks like he had a great day of practice on Thursday. He's going to probably take away some of Leonard Fournette's 100 targets that we had last year. And like I said at the top, against this Jaguars defense is not going to be good. They're going to be in a lot of passing situations. So Chris Thompson is maybe your last pick of the draft. He's a handcuff, but if you think about guys like Naheem Hines, Tariq Cohen, Tariq Cohen's at the more like extreme end of the spectrum because he's probably looking at 90 to 100 targets. But Chris Thompson, he's got the ability to catch 40 or 50 balls, perhaps, based on how this offense is looking. Another 49ers receiver, J.J. Nelson's down with a knee for 2 to 4 weeks. Paris Campbell was placed in the concussion protocol after being in a car accident, but it sounds like he's going to be fine. I still like Paris Campbell. He's one of those guys that I'm kind of targeting with my last pick of the draft. And this was a really big news blurb for me, the New York Giants, because we got this big tangled ball of wide receivers here that no one seems to agree on with their ADP, whether it's Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, or Darius Slayton. I've been saying that I think I prefer Shepard and then Golden Tate and then Slayton, because Shepard's kind of the utility guy who can do everything really well. And he actually he was the leader receiver in targets last year per game for Daniel Jones. And then Golden Tate, super reliable. I feel safe throwing him out there in PPR leagues to get 5 or 6 catches, and 60 some yards. But I'll read this blurb right here. Apparently, Sterling Shepard has dominated opposing cornerbacks, establishing himself as the clear number 1 wideout. I'm trying to think what else here. So if Shepard really is the wide receiver 1 over Golden Tate and Darius Slayton, his 11th round ADP could make him one of the biggest season values. So I've been targeting Sterling Shepard a lot the last few weeks because I've also noticed this weird ADP blip. It seemed like it was inverted to me with Darius Slayton being drafted a little bit higher at times. But Golden Tate, super steady, reliable PPR receiver. But I think Sterling Shepard's got the most upside and the most consistency to his game. Whereas Darius Slayton, you're never going to feel comfortable putting him out there because he could get 2 for 18 yards, and the next day you could get a 6 for 118 and a touchdown. So it's a risk reward play there. Just a good note here on Deion Lewis looking spry in camp, and he's expected to be the 3rd down back, but we're not expecting much loss of snaps for Saquon Barkley. Joe Mixon, once again, absent from practice. He's citing it to have migraines, which is not good. So we'll continue to monitor Joe Mixon for right now. I have not been a fan of Joe Mixon at all in the summer drafts because he already hinted that he didn't like his contract. When I saw that early, he was one of those guys where within my 1st or 2nd round pick, I just felt a little uncomfortable taking Joe Mixon, and I preferred guys a little bit more than him in that area. So I was leaning that way anyway. So at the moment right now, I'm not really interested in drafting Joe Mixon. If something gets done with his deal, sure, we can lock in Joe Mixon. But if there's any kind of attitude or any ill will, with Mixon on his team this season, and if they're losing games, I don't really want to invest in a 2nd round pick or end of the 1st with Joe Mixon. So Kansas City Chiefs backup running back Darrell Williams is expected to be the number 2 behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And Darrell Williams has been one of my favorite backups to watch in Kansas City because he's been very productive. He's an excellent 3rd down back. He can catch. He's a goal line kind of guy, the short yardage area. So I think there's reason to kind of pump the brakes on Clyde. They did a typo. It says Clyde Edwards. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm kind of pumping the brakes on Clyde. I think that I'm probably gonna have to do a video about this, but when I'm drafting, there's certain running backs that hold weight. And I don't really know if I can trust Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be fit into my RB1, position. He looks best as an RB2, but where you're going to have to draft him is you're almost have to draft him in the first round. So he's kind of off my board at that point. I'd rather have some of the other guys, or maybe even pivot towards a receiver at the back end of the first. So super interesting. I like Darrell Williams. This is a guy that you could be had in the last round or two of your drafts. And if anything happens to Clyde, I know there was a really weird coach blurb about pass blocking today. So if I type in Eric, and it was the offensive coordinator too. So Eric Bieniemy, how do you spell that? Let me just look. I'm looking for the exact quote. I can't find it exactly, but the quote was, if you can't pass block, you're not going to be in the game. So I don't know if that was a shot at Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let me see if I can actually look up for the exact words and terms here that were used. So here, Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, on Clyde Edwards' understanding of pass protection. If you don't protect the damn quarterback, you can't play. So that raised my eyebrow for a little bit. And I know Darrell Williams can pass block. I know DeAndre Washington can pass block. But for me, I'm always interested in Chiefs RB. So Darrell Williams, put him on your radar. Chicago Bears with David Montgomery hurt. You got this backup running back, Artavis Pierce here. He could be an early down option if the team is without David Montgomery. Something to just fold away. He's the most traditional running back, as they say here. They do have Cordero Patterson, who I believe has been working with the running backs room. I think they still have Ryan Nall, who's another kind of bigger back. But we'll just keep a part of this. I'm not drafting Chicago Bears at the moment, but it's interesting to know. This was another interesting note here. They're saying Bryce Love from the Washington football team would not make the team. He might not make the team. So this is the Athletic reporting this. He would not make the team if Washington decides to keep just 3 running backs headed into the season. So that to me means J.D. McKissic's a roster lock. So this team has to keep 4 running backs. That just seems a little crazy. So I don't know if to put too much into that. Benny Snell. They are considering Benny Snell to be a much different and better player. I know he lost 10 to 12 pounds of weight. He's, being more agile, more quicker in his cuts. And he is basically the primary backup to James Conner. So if you are worried about James Conner and you agree that James Conner is a top 10 back when healthy, then you should be able to devise a draft plan to take James Conner, whether it's at the end of the second, early third round, and you just target Benny Snell as one of your handcuffs. Sometimes it's not a terrible idea to draft a handcuff. And in this situation, I don't think Benny Snell's going to get – if something happens to Conner, Benny Snell's going to be basically punched right into that role of 15, 20 touches. So just file that away. But again, he's been having good reports all camp. So this is really interesting to me. And if you're a Conner fan or you want to draft him, keep in mind Benny Snell. If you don't want to play the waiver wire game, if something happens to Conner, you can just hold on to Benny Snell as long as you want and see how that goes. But you could risk it too and spend a bunch of waiver wire bucks on him. So there's a couple ways you could do that. It looks like Jeff Wilson's 53-man roster spot is being threatened by undrafted free agent JaMycal Hasty. Hasty has been a really impressive camp guy to watch right now. He's a really quick and shifty back. He can catch the ball really well, had a pretty good career at Baylor. And he's a guy that I got a couple shares of JaMycal Hasty. So I'm interested in seeing what he can do. And I know Jeff Wilson, he's kind of just a guy, whereas Hasty's got this unknown kind of appealing upside to me. So I'm interested there. Again, Damian Harris took almost all the first-team reps. Drew Brees is pumping up Traquan Smith, so that's interesting. And it looks like we're already into basically yesterday's news. I know a lot of I was kind of busy yesterday. I didn't put out a video besides my podcast with Sigmund Bloom. So I'll kind of just, we're going on about 14 and a half minutes. I'll just keep reading off maybe one more page of notes. This one, if you are a Devin Singletary fan and want to draft him as your RB2, we're pumping the brakes. We are definitely pumping the brakes on this one. So he's having fumbling issues in camp. And Zach Moss is apparently getting a lot of hype almost every day. He's a good pass catcher, good pass blocker, and he runs with power, and he's agile for a big back. So at the moment right now where you're drafting Devin Singletary, he's completely off limits to me. I'm not touching Devin Singletary in the 4th, 5th. I don't even want him in the 6th round. I would rather have Zach Moss in the 9th or the 10th round. And then again, I'm going to continue targeting receivers in that 4, 5, 6 round range. So I'm a fan of Devin Singletary, but it's not good if he's having fumbling issues. That means he's thinking, and he's kind of in his head, I think. So Singletary is off my board, guys. So target Zach Moss. This has been a steady drumbeat. Rookie 4th round pick for Seattle, DJ Dallas. He's got some pass catching upside. He caught a lot of passes in college. I think he might have been a former receiver in college. And you think about what's going on in Seattle. There's rumors that they want to kind of loosen it up and throw a little more. Maybe there's just a big smoke screen going on here. But Chris Carson's got a hip injury. He's hurt. He was their leading pass catcher last year for the running backs. They added Carlos Hyde, who's not really much of a pass catcher. And I think Travis Homer is there. They used to have J.D. McKissick, but he's out. I think McKissick was on the Lions last year. But anyways, it's super interesting because this has been like 2 weeks strong where we're hearing DJ Dallas is getting significant snaps in 2 third-down minute back rolls. So he's another guy. End of best ball leagues, just pepper him in there because there could be times where Seattle's in a tight game and they got to, that maybe they're down 10 points at halftime and they got to speed things up, and you got DJ Dallas, catching 4 or 5 passes. So file that name away. He's definitely a guy that I'm keeping an eye on. Looking around here, these are just a bunch of defenses. Kyle Juszczyk. The 49ers are just getting hit hard right now with these injuries. They got another guy with a hamstring strain week to week. He's in danger of missing week 1. And the 49ers play Arizona Cardinals week 1. And at the moment right now, the 49ers offense is not looking good. A lot of injuries. They got George Kittle and Jimmy Graham and Raheem Mostert. Not Jimmy Graham, Jimmy Garoppolo. But Kyle Juszczyk hurt. Deebo Samuel might not play. Brandon Ayuk still missing practice. A lot of question marks here. And then this is probably the biggest one that happened yesterday. Eagles left tackle Andre Dillard on injured reserve with a torn biceps. Not good. If you are banking on Miles Sanders having a big year, this is a significant, factor to his upside. So I really don't know where I'm going to be drafting Sanders, but like I said, I think I'm going to have to put out a video where I explain. I'm going to be, if you're still watching, I'm going to be updating my rankings and my other projections and stuff tonight on theFantasyFellowship.com. I'll tweet those out. I might even post them in the video below. But the idea is to look at my tiers, because I'm probably going to be looking at a list of running backs here that, people are sometimes drafting them as first round picks. But I don't think you can draft some of these guys as your first, round pick, as your first running back. Some of these guys look better as your RB2s, and this is going to qualify for Miles Sanders, I believe. So I think that's going to do it for this video. I think I kind of got through everything. We talked about Kalen Ballage at the top being traded. DeAndre Swift is missing practice. That's a little bit of a concern. And then, the Joe Mixon holdout right now. We're in the middle of a migraine holdout, and we'll see how it goes. But that's going to do it for this video. If you haven't checked out my podcast with Sigmund Bloom, check out that video. Check out the podcast, Fantasy Fellow Show. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google. You can check out, I think there's a link below for the website. So go ahead and check the fantasyfellowship.com out. Lots of new stuff on there. I'm posting rankings. We're here. We got 2 more weekends left, guys. So there's going to be one more update today. And then next Friday, I'll put up my final update before draft weekends. But we are in the thick of it. Super excited. Thank you so much for your time. Like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and thank you. We'll see you in another one. Peace.